So before I start launching into this particular toy, just want to front load the video with a couple of things because I feel like maybe I should start doing that. For anyone who likes the channel, likes the videos I do for whatever reason, and if you feel like you want to support all of this monetarily, there are a couple of options. I have a Patreon, which you can find a link for in the description, with a single $1 tier that just supports the channel and gets you early access to videos. Also, there is a link for the Shozy Discord, which if you follow that link and join the Discord using that link, you get 50 points of store credit, basically, that I can put towards future toy purchases from Shozy. And if you're not familiar with Shozy, it's an overseas retailer that sells a lot of third-party transforming figures, and some official stuff too, mostly Masterpiece, but mostly third-party. Wonderful customer service, really nice prices, usually free shipping to the US. So overall, great place. And they are starting up a pretty nice little community on that Discord. Now, with all of that said, Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus. You may notice that the lighting in this video is better than the last one. That's because I was finally able to dig the ring light out of my closet. So I'm looking forward to that. Just not having things being so poorly lit anymore. But yes, Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus. This is the Shattered... Pardon me. This is the Shattered Glass version. And basically, I liked Siege Ultra Magnus, but I wasn't as big a fan of it due to the battle damage, and the RID Ultra Magnus homage in the vehicle mode was cool, but just didn't really do it for me. I ended up wanting to get Kingdom Ultra Magnus because it was more of a, truck plus trailer kind of look, but couldn't really bring myself to spend $50 on a figure I already owned. Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus, on the other hand, I've been wanting a Diaclone homage to Ultra Magnus for a while, and I missed the window on the New Age version, so I was like, yes, I will get this, and this will be my Diaclone Ultra Magnus. So yeah, I guess I should say up front, this guy is not using the Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus head. I will add a photo when I'm talking about it, so you can see what it's supposed to look like. But yeah, this is, for all intents and purposes, my Diaclone Ultra Magnus, so I will be referring to it as such, even though this is, I know, Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus. Now, the vehicle mode is fine. It's messy. The Ultra Magnus from Kingdom and Siege and all that, he's been messy. It's just the way the toy is designed. I will say, though, Siege Ultra Magnus's vehicle mode looks better because the cab sits a little bit further back and tucks inside the trailer, which covers up the very obvious robot arms here and kind of masks a little bit of this added bulk on the cab section. Because if you're looking at that cab section, it kind of looks like it's got little hair buns or something back here. So yeah, it's kind of messy. And because of the Kingdom / Shattered Glass mold, the cab sits further up to make it look more like a cab pulling a trailer, and then you get the arms and all that junk hanging off. And of course, from the top, it's unfolded chest plate, so it's a bit messy, particularly back here. And yeah, it's, as I said, it's messy, but it's okay. Like, it doesn't ruin it for me, but it's not great. Also, it's kind of funny that the knees are still open, so you can do that. The thing with Shattered Glass or Diaclone Ultra Magnus like this that kind of bums me out a little bit is the fact that the colors just aren't doing it any favors. I like the colors as colors. This is a really nice blue, really nice red. The blue, red, and black work together really well. The problem is you've got this same shade of blue going all the way along the truck. Whereas in Kingdom and Siege, the colors were more separated out. And I mean, I know why they did it. It's just kind of a shame. I feel like, it would have been nice if there were some extra colors in here somewhere to kind of break it up so it didn't just look like a big slab of blue from the side. The red along the top does, just if you're looking at the color, this looks better color-wise. It's much messier, actually, but color-wise, this looks better because you've got the red and the blue acting as separate color elements that separate out the cab from the trailer. But when you turn it on its side, it's just one big thing. So yeah, that's kind of a shame. The cab itself looks fine. Again, you just got, it's what's going on up here that's the real problem, and like the arms. This I feel like is worse than the Power of the Prime's Optimus Prime / Nemesis Prime cab. It's like, yes, that thing had its problems, but it wasn't this bad. This is pretty bad. It's like you've got nice looking truck just from the front. And even then it's kind of broken up a little bit by what's going on here. And then you turn to the side and it's just all this chunkiness back up here. The smokestacks are in the center and sticking up like bunny ears. It's just kind of not great. I didn't get them for the vehicle mode, but yeah, it's like, I don't mind it. The transformation's interesting for what it is. The figure is nice. It's just the colors and the messiness are kind of not ideal. Now, being a leader class figure, he is pretty sizable in vehicle mode. I mean, you know, due to the nature of the transformation, the primary robot is just right here. But still, vehicle's a pretty good size. Here you can see how he measures up with the usual suspects. Get these out of the way here. And bring in the lad. The one, the only, the duck tank. Alright, transformation time. I am going to transform everything, but we are going to look at the core robot first. So, I'm just going to unplug these little launchers from the sides of the truck and put those off to the side. And going to remove the truck from the trailer, which can be a little tricky because these clips right here, they hold in really well, perhaps too well, sometimes alarmingly well. So, just going to untab that, and I did have the rifle tucked away in there. You can store it up top by like plugging it in here or in some of the other ports around, but I just tossed it in there. Now, there's one other place that the trailer attaches. There's this little peg down here that sits in that tab. So untap that, unplug this from the clip. Come on, let go, let go. There we go. Why does it hold on so much? And now we're going to slide this section off the cab, and we will deal with the cab last because that's the actual robot. These bits, it's going to slide apart. There's this little T-shaped connector there, so you want to slide that out. Don't pull, slide. And going to fold these up partway. And let's put all the armor off to the side where I've got more room. Now, I'm going to separate the other sides of the trailer from the top section here. And this tabs in here and here. And this particular tab likes to hold in very solidly as well, so got to be forceful, but also a little careful with it. It's very, very in there. Are you wiggling it? Wiggle it slowly and steadily. Oh boy, you can see it's kind of coming out, but the tolerances on this are kind of alarming. There we go. Sheesh. Yeah, it's this like kind of eye-shaped thing that slides into this groove here, and it's just it's a little too tight for my liking. I feel like it didn't really need to be that tight, considering how it connects to the rest of the vehicle mode, but oh well. Come on. Come on. Let go. Alright. Going behind the camera for this one. Just so I can get some better leverage. There we go. Ay. Scary. Alright, now I'm going to separate this section that is very obviously the legs. And this piece here tabs in to the side here and slides into this groove here. So those are the two places that it will disconnect from these bits. Now these fold up. It's very cool. It kind of folds in like this, and this folds in as well. And it all accordions up, and then when you fold it against the leg and fold this down as like the last step, that tucks all of those panels into the side of what becomes the armored leg. And that's a very nice way of getting rid of all of this. So again, I'm going to fold that up first, and then it's just a matter of hinging it where the hinges go. They only go in one direction, so you just do all of that and then roll it in. And you don't want this at a full 90, you kind of want to bring it up a little bit as you wrap it around here so that it can get around some of these tabs. And then plug that in, and there you go. And lastly, going to unplug the forearm guards from the roof section. Those plug in very solidly as well. And if they're not already open, you can open them on one side just to have them ready for the combination later. Unplug that, open that up. And this bit, this was the top of the trailer. You want to fold this bit in, fold this bit in, and this will just go off to the side. And now the cab. And when the cab is not connected to the trailer, you can see just how messy it is. But yes, to transform this, you want to unplug the legs from the center here. And you want to make sure to bring the legs out, because there is a little tab here that tabs into the inner thigh. So bring the legs out before you bring them down. And also don't forget to flip out the heels on the feet. So there is that. Now we're going to bring out the arms, and they do tab in. These tabs go into these openings on the back there. So untab the arms, but don't plug them in yet. I'm going to push the top part of the cab section back slightly. It does actually click, so you want to unclick it and push it back a bit, because you need the space to rotate it around these bits that are sticking up. I don't really know why they did that. I guess they did it so that you'd have a slimmer profile in the waist section, but it seems kind of unnecessary. Anyway, with that rotated around, this section slides up on this track here and just sits up there. Open up the front of the cab, it folds down like this, rotate out the head and push it back up into place. Now the arms can swing forward and connect to the torso. And then all of this can slide back and plug in to the now backpack. And lastly, just going to rotate the fists since those were rotated out. And here is, I don't know the name of this guy. I guess Delta Magnus is what I hear a lot of people refer to him as. I could be wrong. What is going on with my voice today? And he is a junky little blue and black Optimus Prime looking thing. I like this though. I do think this is kind of fun. He is very, very much missing paint detailing. He did have a Shattered Glass Autobot logo on his shoulder here. I took that off using the alcohol cleaning method. It's 90-something% isopropyl alcohol, just very steadily rubbing against it to take it off. The reason I did that is because, as I said, for me, he's not Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus, he is Diaclone Ultra Magnus, so I took off the Decepticon or Evil Autobot logos. But yeah, he is sorely lacking in paint. There is, like, the only paint on this guy is on the truck cab section and the head. Nothing else from the robot mode. Like, yeah, you've also got this, but that's kind of a given. And that stinks. I really wish they had put more color on this mode. I wish they'd put more color on Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus in general, because, it's a nifty design, but it does feel like, for its being the slightly more premium, or at least comes off as more premium, Shattered Glass series, I feel like they could have done more with the paint rather than give him more accessories. But this is what we got. And yeah, proportions are weird. They're definitely weird. He looks kind of short and stocky. I don't mind it. It's not like Energon Prime levels of chonk, but it's just the lack of paint detailing, because there is detailing on this guy. There's lots of detailing. He's got very Optimus Prime legs with the vents and the little square knees, and the these aren't really Optimus Prime, but he's got the textured thighs. Got the pelvis section that actually does unplug. It actually plugs in pretty solidly, but this unplugs, rotates around, and changes for the Ultra Magnus mode, which we will do when it comes to the transformation. But yeah, that's also some nice molding. The torso, some nice molding as well, and it also has more of like a classic Optimus Prime look. The arms have some nice detail with like the rivets and the bars, and even has little arrows. So it's a cool little figure. It's got some decent posability, which we'll look at in a minute. It's just really, really lacking in paint. Oh, and the smokestacks. Those are painted, but yeah. Now, the head is a very Optimus Prime head, but all black with the silver faceplate, silver head crest, and yellow eyes. And I like this look. The yellow pops. I mean, the silver too, but like the yellow in particular really pops on the black head. And I don't know, for some reason, the black head with yellow eyes on a blue body, it works really well in terms of color. And the sculpt is, as I said, really nice. It's kind of a slightly rounder Optimus Prime head, but I don't mind it. It still gets the point across. It's still got all the right beats visually for like the head crest, the ear things, the faceplate, all that. The little ears that kind of come down in a semi-L shape, all that. Yeah, pretty nice head. And as you can see, for articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you can wiggle and go up and down and turn left and right. The arms can do a full 360 all the way around. They can go out to a little bit past 90. That joint is really stiff on this for some reason. You get a bicep swivel, you get a 90-degree elbow, you get wrist swivels, all part of the transformation, but still necessary for articulation. You get a waist rotation. The hips rather, can go forward that far and back not very far. Also, again, when going forward, you want to be careful because of the tab there where it plugs in. So you don't want to have it in and bring it up, because then it'll hit that tab, and if you force it, you might damage something. So you want it out slightly, come up. And you can have it in when you come up all the way, but then you want to be sure to bring it out before you bring it back down. And it is ratcheted for some reason. And then can go out to almost 90. You get a thigh swivel, and this does that kind of fun thing where the thigh swivel is behind this plate, so it actually hides the joint for a lot of the swiveling, which I think is kind of cool. The knees can bend to 90. It looks like they should be able to bend more, but because of the design of the joint, it just doesn't. If they had carved a little bit of a channel in here, it probably could have bent further. And it seems like maybe it was supposed to at one point, because you have this cut back here. But oh well. I kind of wonder if they decided to cut off the knee bend, because when the armor plates are on, it adds more bulk to the legs. I don't know. Anyway, the feet, you don't get any forward and backward motion. You can move the heel around if you want, and you do actually get some decent ankle tilts. So, Delta Magnus, as I'm calling him, as just a standalone robot, is pretty decently posable. And as I said, he's a little bit on the chunky side, but he's still pretty neat. And just for the heck of it, give him his enormous rifle that looks huge in his hands, because it's not really meant for him. It's meant for his alter ego, I guess. And here, bringing in the usual folks, you can see that he is just about Voyager height. About. He's a little bit taller. Tiny bit taller than Artfire. Which stands to reason, because ultimately this is supposed to be a leader class figure. But yes, he is pretty tall, pretty bulky, but then when you also consider him versus Artfire, this is a standalone figure versus Artfire is a standalone figure. Artfire is a bit more complex in terms of transformation and engineering and all that. Get these back out of here. And once again, bring in our boy, the Duck Tank. Okay, time to armor this boy up. So I'm just gonna take the gun out of his hand. You don't really need to because of how it all works, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And we are going to get him into a proper magical girl transformation pose so that we can do the thing. And we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. So I'm going to bring in the bits of leg armor, and those just slide over the feet. You want to be sure to fold the heels in and keep the feet kind of straight. And this slides in, and there's this clip goes into these two little holes right in. There we go. Those two little holes there. And then there's also a tab up here that tabs in. Is it here, I think? So you just slide that in, and you don't actually see where it goes. You just kind of have to trust the process, but it does work. And it'll go in, and it will hold, and you're all good. So bring that in, bring this one in, plug that in place, and now he has his legs. Want to not forget to pull down the pelvis, rotate it around, and push it back into place. Now this piece, for some reason, seems to be painted, which, okay. So that adds a little bit of paint to the robot mode, I guess. Now for the arm bits, what you want is you want the sort of angled cut facing forward, and you want the flap facing the inside of the forearm. So it's going to go on like this. It just slides on and plugs into the side of the forearm, and then this flips up and closes all of that off. Now these bits, for whatever reason, they decided to paint, I guess just because of the way it goes on the sprue, but these panels are painted red, which means these tabs are a little bit thicker than they're supposed to be. So when you first get this thing, at least what I had to do was it wouldn't peg in all the way. So you kind of have to just squeeze it really hard and just hold it, make sure it really gets used to being plugged in like that, and then it should prevent it from kind of popping out on its own. Over time, it gets much easier. It's just initially it was a little bit of a pain to get those plugged in. Okay, so we've got all that done. Now we want to slide the torso forward so that we can. First, we want to slide it forward because it unlocks this. This slides back down to the butt. To disconnect the arms so we can open up the chest section again, flip the head back around, and close that back up. Bring that back in, slide this back again, so now he doesn't have a head. And we will be addressing that after we get the shoulder bits attached. And while we've got the shoulder bits here, I'm going to plug in little missile pods, and those can just plug into that. You can plug into either side, but it's better to use the left with left, right with right, and you can kind of determine that by having the peg towards the bottom rather than if you were to put it on this side and have it flipped around like this, which does sit lower but then blocks the outward motion and also doesn't peg in as far. And yeah, it is kind of a shame that they didn't have the pegs lined up properly for this mold. Like, it's something that they just never bothered to do for whatever reason, but oh well. It's been like that for all versions of this mold, so it's not exclusive to Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus at all. Anyway, with these properly missiled, these bits will slide over. You want the big opening, obviously, slides over the shoulder. And as that slides over, it'll settle in around this tab on the back. And so this piece comes up, and this will actually settle over that tab. And that helps to keep this locked onto the shoulder. And showing it from this angle, you can see it slides over. And this folds up and plugs in over what little of that tab sticks out. And that gives us our beefier Magnus shoulders. And lastly, we take this piece, and this will clip here and here. It'll clip over this strut on the back. And with that clipped into place, we can bring this panel down, and then this will fold down, and these bits here and here will tab into the slots on the torso. And that gives us our Diaclone Ultra Magnus. And I have my gripes about the lack of paint and whatnot in the sky, which I do think will be remedied once I get some repro labels. I've had that set kind of marked for a while, I just haven't gotten around to getting it. But this is cool. I really like the Diaclone color scheme on this guy. And I like this mold. I know there is the DNA upgrade kit that gives him longer legs. Quite honestly, I don't think he needs it. And I'm not just saying that because that upgrade kit seems like it is a QC nightmare that just makes things worse. Like, yeah, the longer legs do adjust his proportions a bit, but I kind of like him looking just kind of beefy and chunky and not as, like, tall. It works for me. It makes him feel like more of a humanoid battering ram in my mind. And for me, I think that works for an Ultra Magnus. And he cleans up pretty well, all things considered. Yes, I like the proportions. I like the color breakup here. I just wish there was more in terms of little color details here and there. And again, despite the more premium feel that the Shattered Glass line tends to evoke, it just doesn't seem like any of that money went into the paint. Because there is paint here, it just doesn't seem to be as much. Like, the little pylons on his shoulders, yes, that's paint because this is all just a red plastic piece. And, you know, there's the paint on the waist for some reason, paint on the shins, paint on the insides of the forearms for some reason. But it just doesn't look like he's painted that much. So, again, looking forward to those repro labels. But he looks good, and the color breakup for what it is nice. I like how you've got the black, red, and blue and gray kind of all up in the legs here, and then in the torso section as well, kind of with how you've got the red up here, and blue, gray, all that. I didn't mention it before, but I like the red in the torso, though I do kind of wish it wasn't as dull a color. And like, you get that same red for the, come on, unplug, for the cab, and again, like, it's nice, it just seems a little dull when compared to the other colors around it. So I think it would have been nice if the red was a little bit brighter. Maybe not this shade of red, but just, I don't know, bump up the contrast a little bit, you know? And the molding is nice. It's very kind of interesting how, like, the legs, I could be wrong, but they don't really seem to be a different molding for, like, you know, compared to like Siege and stuff. So it's like you've got the really intense Siege greebling, then the thighs are not quite as intensely detailed. Same for the pelvis. Then you get to like the torso, and like there is a lot of molded detail in the torso, but just the amount of intricate molded detail here seems to pale in comparison to what's going on here. It's something that you don't really notice because it's, you know, the black plastic, dark blue, so the intense details don't really stand out from a distance, but it does kind of make it seem like, yeah, this probably needed to, maybe not needed, but probably could have done with a little bit of a change to the molding just to make it kind of match in terms of overall texture. But as for the rest of it, like the arms, I think have an adequate amount of texture that's kind of like, it works, I think, for both Siege and Shattered Glass / Kingdom. But yeah, that is all of that. Now for the head, I have, as you can see, this is the Diaclone head option, and I will pop up a picture of the Shattered Glass head. This is what the Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus head looks like, and I don't think it's a bad head sculpt, it's just not what I wanted this figure for. So it's sitting in my my parts box along with the ridiculous lollipop axe sword thing that comes with Legacy Scourge, and Optimus Prime, for that matter. Yeah, I'm not really into the extra accessories. That's why I only have his rifle. But this head I really like. It does a really good job of conveying the Ultra Magnus look. It's got the right shape. It's got that fun square divot, the giant ears, antennas that they did paint silver. The face is silver. It looks really good. Now, you might notice mine looks a little different than the stock. That's because this is originally, the eyes are red with the red light piping, and I didn't like that. Both because I'm just not a fan of light piping in a lot of instances, but also it kind of made the eyes look dull, and it's like red plastic on red plastic, so it kind of defeated the purpose in my mind. So what I did was I opened up the head, took out the eyepiece, and painted it gold. So I did paint his eyes gold to go more along with like the original look. I'm not entirely sure if it's gold or yellow for the original, but I just thought gold would look really good. And, you know, it's gold against silver, which I think is nice, and the gold, I think, also works really well next to that red. So I'm really liking the color on the head there, or specifically the eyes. Now I just need those repro labels to complete this. But as we're here, you don't really gain or lose anything in terms of articulation. His new head is on a ball joint, so it looks up and down, can tilt left and right, not as much as the other head, and can look around. The arms can still go all the way around. They can still go out, though with the missiles plugged in, the arm can't go up past 90 now, because it crashes into stuff, but that's fine. You still have the bicep swivel, you still have the 90-degree bend at the elbow, though if you bring the arm out, then the armor will kind of clash into it. You won't get quite to 90, but still pretty darn close. You still get the wrist swivel, which is a little restricted because of the angles here if you're twisting in, but it's still there. You do still get the waist swivel, but because of these things, which again, like, these just get in the way. Because of these things, the waist swivel is a bit restricted. You can slide this piece up a little bit, which gets it out of the way, and that frees up the waist rotation. So what I find I'll usually do is like slide that piece up, twist the waist, and then slide it back down. The only thing to remember is once that waist clears this little bar in the back, it's gonna have trouble straightening out again. So you're gonna want to lift that up, twist it back around, and push it back down. Not terrible, but it does kind of stink that they, have these things that are restricting the waist motion now. The hips are exactly the same. They do the forward. You want to be careful of that tab. They do the back to pretty much the same degree. They do the out to pretty much the same degree, same amount of thigh swivel. The knees bend to just under 90. The armor butts against the back of the thigh, so you're not going to get quite as much of a knee bend without with the armor on, but the amount that you're losing is pretty minimal. And then the feet are covered up, so you don't get the heel spur thing, but you do get pretty intense, perhaps too intense, ankle tilts with the new feet. In fact, I would say you maybe don't want to go out that far. Kind of felt like things were pushing past things. Yeah, there's this little bar back here, so you maybe don't want to go past this point. But point is, you do get ankle tilts even in the big armor modes. So the articulation for the armored up Ultra Magnus is pretty much just as good as Delta Magnus. And we didn't really look at it very close, but this is the rifle that I've been using with him, and I think it's molded well. I think it's nice. I like it's this big beefy rifle to give him. My problem with it is it's red. It's the same red as the arm armor. So when you plug it into his hand, it just doesn't stand out much. I really wish that had been like black or even blue. I know it probably wasn't because of the way the mold is designed, but it's just, yeah. It would have been nice if you could get a little bit more, like just a little bit of a different color out of that gun, but oh well. So there we have Diaclone colors Ultra Magnus all armored up. Let's readjust here and bring in one last round of size comparisons. When he's armored up, he gets a fair bit taller, I'd say. Because remember, the core robot was ever so slightly taller than Artfire, and now armored up, he is significantly taller than Artfire, because armoring him up adds both the height in the feet and also brings the head up further. So yeah, he is much bigger. But in addition to just being taller, he's also much, much bulkier because now that entire trailer section is incorporated into the body. So this is where I feel like, this is where the leader is. He's not super tall, but he is dense. So for me, it's justifiable. And get all of you back out of here. Now, just real quick, going to leave Artfire up for a second so you can see more of what I'm talking about and how he kind of side by side with a Voyager from the same, we'll say the same time period, not the same actual line, but you can see that, he is taller and denser. Like, he is, undeniably heavier. He feels it's hard to say if it's necessarily twice as heavy as Artfire, but he definitely feels significantly heavier than Artfire. So once he's armored up, he is definitely, in my mind at least, worth the price points. And one more areas with the lad, the duck tank. And that does it for Transformers. Maybe it's Generation Selects, I don't know, Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus, who in my mind is actually Diaclone Ultra Magnus, and I do really like this figure. The mainline Ultra Magnus is a little bit disappointing in some aspects, especially compared to some third-party offerings. I will grant you that, but it's mainline, and it's fun and clever for what it is. It's not, the most cohesive vehicle mode. It's not the best in terms of proportions core robot, but getting back and forth, pretty straightforward, simple, has some clever, just cat hair everywhere, has some clever, if simple, design elements. I really like how the chest kind of accordions up and how these flaps accordion in to clean up the legs. So it does some really smart things, and the final result looks pretty friggin' cool. I just wish there was a little bit more in terms of coloring and color breakup and stuff in this mode, but as I said, that can be remedied with some repro labels, which I've mentioned before, not necessarily in a video here, but I have mentioned that as far as I'm concerned, repro labels should never be necessary for a figure, and I don't strictly feel that they're necessary in this case, but I view them more as a fun way to enhance a figure that I already like. And I already like this figure a lot. So I'm willing to put a little bit more money in to upgrade it just a bit more with a little bit more color, a little bit more detail. So we'll see how that works out when I eventually get around to getting the sticker set. But that is going to do it for what I think on Transformers Shattered Glass / Diaclone Ultra Magnus. What do you all think of this guy? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and still haven't figured out the outro, but next video the figure is not going to be this large or complicated, I can tell you that.